Welcome back to the English Daily Podcast. Today we are talking about the science of nostalgia. Nostalgia is that warm, emotional feeling you get when you remember a meaningful moment from your past. Maybe it is a song from high school, the smell of food from your childhood, or an old photo that suddenly brings back many memories. This topic is great for English learners because we can explore useful vocabulary, natural conversation, and practical ways to talk about memories in English. Jake, do you think nostalgia is always a happy feeling, or can it be a little sad too?
I think it is usually both. That is one reason nostalgia is so interesting. It can feel sweet and painful at the same time. In English, we sometimes describe that feeling as bittersweet. Bittersweet means something is pleasant but also carries a little sadness. For example, you might say, looking at my old school pictures feels bittersweet because I miss those days. Nostalgia often works like that. We remember people, places, and routines that made us feel safe or excited, but we also know those moments are gone. Anna, why do you think ordinary things can trigger such strong memories?
A big reason is association. Association means a mental connection between one thing and another. Your brain links a smell, sound, taste, or place with an experience. Then, when you meet that smell or sound again, the memory comes back quickly. Imagine hearing a cartoon theme song you loved as a child. Suddenly, you remember the room, the time of day, and even how you felt. That is not magic. It is your brain making connections. For learners, association is also a useful study method. If you connect new English words with real experiences, you will probably remember them better.
That is a great learning tip. And there is also a scientific side to it. Certain parts of the brain are involved in memory and emotion, so nostalgia can feel very powerful. We do not need to become neuroscientists today, but it helps to know that memory is not like opening a file on a computer. Human memory is active and emotional. We rebuild memories each time we remember them. The verb rebuild means to create again, and in this case it means our brain reconstructs the past. So nostalgia is not always a perfect record. It is often a meaningful version of the past.
That idea is important because many people believe their memories are exact. But memory can be selective. Selective means it chooses some details and ignores others. When people feel nostalgic, they often remember the most comforting parts and forget the boring or difficult parts. For example, someone may say, "My childhood was simple and perfect." But maybe at that time they also worried about school, friendships, or family problems. Nostalgia can smooth the rough edges. I love that expression, by the way. To smooth the rough edges means to make something seem softer, easier, or less harsh than it really was.
Yes, and that is why nostalgia can be comforting during stressful times. When life feels uncertain, people often look back to familiar memories. Familiar means well-known and comfortable because you have experienced it before. During big changes, like moving to a new city or starting a new job, people may watch old movies, cook family recipes, or listen to music from earlier years. These habits can create emotional stability. Stability means a calm and steady condition. In simple words, nostalgia can remind us who we are and where we come from when the present feels confusing.
I agree. And I think that is why nostalgia became a common topic online. People share old toys, childhood snacks, and television shows, and others immediately react. There is a feeling of community. Community means a group of people who share something important. When someone posts an old picture of a classroom or a game from the past, viewers often comment, "I remember this," or "This brings me back." That phrase, "brings me back," is very common in spoken English. It means something causes you to remember an earlier time very vividly. Jake, can nostalgia actually be good for mental health?
In many cases, yes. Research suggests nostalgia can improve mood, reduce loneliness, and even increase hope. Hope is the feeling that good things are possible in the future. That sounds surprising because nostalgia is about the past, but remembering meaningful relationships can make people feel supported in the present. If you remember a time when friends loved you or your family encouraged you, you may feel stronger now. Of course, too much focus on the past can become unhealthy if it stops you from living in the present. So the key word here is balance. Balance means not too much and not too little.
Balance is also helpful when we talk about language. There are several useful ways to express nostalgia in English. You can say, "This reminds me of my childhood." You can say, "I feel nostalgic when I hear this song." You can also say, "That takes me back." Another nice phrase is, "I have fond memories of that time." Fond means warm, loving, and positive. Notice that these expressions sound natural in conversation. Intermediate learners should practice them with personal examples. For instance, "I have fond memories of summer evenings at my grandmother's house." That sentence sounds clear, emotional, and natural.
Let me add another vocabulary word, sentimental. If something is sentimental, it has emotional value because it is connected to personal memories. An old ticket, a handwritten note, or a childhood sweater can all be sentimental objects. People do not keep them because they are expensive. They keep them because they represent part of their story. Represent means to stand for something. This is useful in conversation because native speakers often say, "I know it looks silly, but it is sentimental." That is a very natural way to explain why you care about an item that might not seem important to other people.
Another interesting point is that nostalgia is not only personal. It can also be cultural. Cultural nostalgia happens when a group of people misses a certain time in society, like the music, fashion, or lifestyle of a past decade. People might say they miss the 90s, or they wish life were more like the early days of the internet. Whether that view is accurate or not, it shows that nostalgia can shape trends. Shape means to influence the form of something. Movies, clothing styles, and even marketing campaigns often use nostalgic images because they create instant emotional connection.
That is true, and marketers understand this very well. A marketer is a person who promotes products or services. Companies often bring back old packaging, classic logos, or retro designs because these details make customers feel comfortable and curious. Retro means inspired by the style of an earlier time. Even young people who did not live through that period can enjoy the feeling. Sometimes nostalgia is learned socially. In other words, we borrow emotional meaning from our family, friends, or culture. If your parents always talk warmly about a certain song, you may start to feel connected to it too.
Let us talk about a practical speaking skill. When you share a nostalgic memory in English, it helps to organize your story in a simple order. First, say what triggered the memory. Second, explain what you remembered. Third, describe how it made you feel. Here is a model. Yesterday I smelled fresh bread, and it reminded me of visiting my aunt as a child. She used to bake every Sunday, and the whole house felt warm and welcoming. It made me feel calm and a little emotional. That structure is useful because it gives your story clarity. Clarity means being easy to understand.
I like that structure. It also helps learners avoid getting lost in details. Another tip is to use time expressions clearly. You can say, "When I was little, back in middle school, years ago, or at that time." These expressions guide the listener. Guide here means to lead someone in the right direction. You can also compare past and present. For example, back then, we played outside every evening, but now everyone is on their phones. The phrase "back then" is very common in spoken English for talking about the past. It is simple, natural, and easy to remember.
We should also mention that nostalgia can be triggered by the senses. The senses are sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. Smell is especially powerful. Many people say a certain perfume, soap, or dish suddenly brings back a whole chapter of life. A chapter usually means part of a book, but in conversation it can also mean a period of your life. That is a beautiful way to speak. You might say, "That song brings back a chapter of my life." This kind of language sounds expressive, and it helps learners move beyond very basic sentences.
At the same time, it is good to be careful with idealized memories. Idealized means imagined as better or more perfect than reality. If we always think the past was better, we may become negative about the present. A healthier approach is to appreciate the past without getting trapped there. Trapped means unable to move forward or escape. You can learn from your memories, enjoy them, and still build new experiences. I think that is one of the best lessons from nostalgia. It tells us that our past matters, but it should support our present life, not replace it.
Before we finish, let us give listeners a mini speaking challenge. Think of one object, one song, and one smell that make you feel nostalgic. Then describe each one in 2 or 3 sentences in English. Try to use today's vocabulary, such as bittersweet, association, sentimental, fond memories, and back then. You could even record yourself speaking. That kind of practice builds fluency. Fluency means the ability to speak smoothly and naturally. Do not worry about perfect grammar at first. Focus on clear communication, emotional honesty, and useful vocabulary.
Great idea. So here is our recap. Nostalgia is a mixed emotional experience connected to memory, meaning, and identity. We learned that it can be bittersweet, that association helps trigger memories, and that sentimental objects often carry personal value. We also talked about practical phrases like "this reminds me of," "that takes me back," and "I have fond memories of." Most importantly, nostalgia can comfort us and even support mental health when we keep a healthy balance. Thanks for listening to the English Daily Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe, share it with a friend, and join us again for more everyday English learning.